Today we're going to be assembling the model 15213. It's a recycling center. Before we begin, on behalf of myself and the other Catskill Craftsman employees, I'd like to thank you for purchasing one of our products and placing confidence in us. And with that said, we will begin. I've laid out here for illustration the two side panels as well as the tabletop support sticks. The way to tell the top and the bottom of the side panels is on the end of the wooden strips in each of the side panels there are two holes, which is where the wheels will go. So we're going to put the tabletop stick across the top of the panel. The tabletop stick is approximately 3 5 inches long. It has two holes on each end to be fastened to the side panel, 4 holes across the bottom for the drawer glides. They're actually, the reason there's 4 holes is because it can be used on either left or right. So we're going to use 2 holes, the first and the third, and then over here the first and the third from the other end of the side panel. Today I'm going to be using a power screwdriver. It will speed assembly somewhat, however it is not necessary. You can just use a regular Phillips, number 2 Phillips screwdriver will work well. So I'm going to take the tabletop sticks, orient it even with the top of the side panel, and this gets fastened with 2 1 1/4 number 8 screws on each side. So what you do is you line them up with your fingers to start. I'll do that quick. Oops. And then I will attach it with a power screwdriver. You don't have to go super tight, they just have to be snug. Step is to fasten these metal L brackets. These are shaped like an L. Not sure which way for you is an L. It has a slot on one end and a hole and a slot on the other. These get fastened to the side panel using the hole and some 5/8 number 6 screws. So the top drawer glides are these brown. They're brown in this situation. Before I show you which ones to use, I'll show you which ones not to use. The ones that actually fasten to the drawer are shaped like a Z or an S. So they're the ones that I'm going to set aside, because those get fastened to the drawer. So there's 2 of those. Here's the other one. The cabinet glides are actually stamped on the inside. So this one is stamped CL, meaning cabinet left. So that will go on this one, which becomes your left side panel. And I'll set this one aside. So the glides actually, they go almost even with the front edge of the tabletop stick. And again, you're going to use the first hole and the third hole. And so here they are, the first, there's 1 hole that lines up and a second hole. And those get fastened. The screws are actually labeled in the pack. 5/8 inch number 7 used on cabinet side glide. So those will go there. Sometimes we get these glides from other manufacturers and the holes are too big. So you put the screw in, they just drop through. So really you just have to have this in the correct position. Sometimes we've had people with issues with the screw, so you just have to move it to another hole and then put the screw in. But I'm going to fasten these right now using the 5/8 number 7, just 2 screws. This unit actually has uses 2 very nice ball bearing full extension glides for the lower pull out for the recycling section of the cart. So those are like this. They actually have the ball bearings, so they extend out fully. It's a 3-part glide, the cabinet section, the middle section, and then the pull-out section. So to fasten these, what you have to do is you have to turn it over, and inside you're going to see this black plastic tab. You're going to want to push that down and then pull out. Sometimes you have to give it a good tug. And this part removes, and this will be fastened later. So we'll set that aside. And you have to remove it so you can see all the holes that get used to fasten it. And so again, about 8 inches up from the bottom about, I'd say, 9 inches down. There's a set of holes across. And again, there's extra holes because some of the holes that you don't use here get used over here. When you push this in, the end of the glide will be just behind the slot in the leg. So you'll roll it up, and you can see that this hole is going to line up right here. This slot lines up with the center hole, and then I've got another slot that's going to line up right there with that hole. These get fastened with 3/8 number 8 pan head screws. Leave that loose for now. I pull it over, that hole lines up nicely. I'll pull it back, there's the first hole, there. So I've taken a few minutes and I've fastened the remaining L brackets, attached the other upper drawer glide, and the remaining lower full extension drawer glides. So here's a picture of it at the end of this step. It is important you make sure that these extend the opposite directions on those glides and that the wheels are to the outside. So our next step will be to assemble the upper drawer. The way this is accomplished, we'll find all parts. You've got the drawer front. It's a wooden piece, 2 holes and 2 holes for the handle. Has holes on the outer ends, which I'll explain here in a moment. That's how it gets fastened to the drawer sides using what we call a bastion fastening system. Has 2 drawer sides, a left and a right. And also the drawer back, a long slotted piece with 2 holes in each end. And then our drawer bottom. So how we'll begin is we'll use what we call the bastion system. This is a bastion post. It's a silver colored post with threads on one end. What I do is I typically have a small Allen wrench which I use to thread those in. It has this one has a slot for a flat blade screwdriver. Some of them come with Phillips heads. And so what you do is you just start. We use these holes on the outer ends of the drawer front. Turn them in a little bit with your fingers. I always put my small Allen wrench in and I just give that a turn it in until the shoulder touches the wood. And then it's very important that these get oriented the correct direction. So next we're going to take one of the drawer sides. I'll use this one. And this goes into position so that the slots line up. But before you put it in position, you want to put one of these barrel nuts in the hole. You want to have it so the hole that's threaded is out, and there's little hash marks which will show you what position to put it. And then you just put it in there and set it down. Then takes these little set screws. We include a wrench. Some of the set screws come with Phillips slots, others are flat bladed. If they come with just a Phillips or a flat blade screwdriver, we wouldn't include the wrench. But these come with a hex head, so we'll include the wrench for you. And you just hold that into position and you thread it in. What I do is I'm going to take the drawer bottom, pick out the best side. I think maybe I'll spin this around just so you can see it. Oops. So I put the best side towards the inner part of the drawer. Just slide it in, make sure it goes in the slots. This will extend just slightly past the drawer sides. And the drawer back, just set on top. The drawer back gets fastened with 2 1¼ number 8 screws on each end. So at this point I'm going to attach the 2 handles. I believe these are 1 inch. We call them truss head screws. Well, the head is really kind of flat, but so those get extended through. Thread them into the handle. I've gone ahead and I've tightened the handles. And also in this step, we are going to attach the drawer glides. We had shown you the cabinet glides before, and these are the ones that we set aside. The way these work is the wheel will go towards the back of the drawer. There's a lip that runs along the side, then the part that goes under the drawer. And you're going to see two holes that line up on each side. And the screws are labeled 5/8 number 5, used on the drawer side. The next step in the assembly process is to assemble the lower pullout. So what we have is this large panel, and there'll be a hole. Let me back up. I'm actually going to assemble this upside down just for the clarity of the video. I don't want to put the bottom in and then block what we're videotaping. So I'm going to assemble this upside down while it's inverted. So what you're going to see, there's a hole towards the top of the panel, which we'll use for a bastion, and towards the bottom of the panel, again, bastions. There's two on each side. There's two small pilot holes here at the bottom. There's a block for a wheel that gets fastened there. And then there's two holes on each side for the pull-out handles. So the first thing we're going to do is, like the previous procedure in the upper drawer, we take one of the silver colored bastion posts, start it in the holes with your fingers. That's what I'll do here. And again, I'm going to use just a small Allen wrench to thread these in. You can use a flat blade screwdriver. So, and then again, on this one, we want the holes to run perpendicular. So they're going to run side to side. So let me thread this one in. Alright, so just put in place the other two bastions for the further side. And what you'll have is we have 4 lower drawer sides. There are 2 for the left, 2 for the right, and they're mirror images of each other. So what you're going to want to have, place the access hole over the post. Make sure the access hole goes through the inside and that your slot lines up. And I'll just place it there. And again, we use the bastion barrel nut. We'll slide it into the access hole. Take our Allen wrench and place it on a set screw. We'll thread that in. Make sure this is nice and straight. We flip the Allen wrench and just tighten it up a little bit more. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and install the other 3, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I've gone ahead and installed all 4 of the lower drawer sides. Normally what I would do is install the drawer bottom, place a drawer back, but I wanted to show you where the caster support block goes. There's 2 pilot holes here. There's a small block of wood with 2 holes. In your hardware pack, there's 2 screws that are a little bit longer than the rest. These are 1.5" screws, and that's what's going to be used here. So you just line it up with those pilot holes. It'll be flush on the bottom edge. And what will happen is later we have a little caster that will go in there, and as you pull the pull out and you extend it, that will support any weight if you have anything heavy in there, and it'll just help support that. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that on quick. So next I'm going to take the lower drawer bottom. This one's slightly larger than the one we used in the last step for the upper drawer. And so I'm going to choose the nicest side, which is this one. And just put it in those slots, drop it down in, make sure it goes into that slot. It'll just be sticking up slightly on each side. You'll take one of these drawer backs, lay it across there, and there are 2 1¼ number 8 screws that go on each side. I'm going to do the same process with the upper one, but also in this step, the drawer sides that we had separated earlier will be attached with the 3/8 number 8 pan head screws. These are the rounded head screws. And on this, you're going to see like an open end and then a bent off tabbed end. The tabbed end goes towards the back of the face of the pullout, and you'll have 2 screws that will line up on each of these drawer sides. So it takes 4, 1 on each one. And so you'll attach those. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've attached everything as I had indicated earlier. Got the handles attached, the drawer sides, drawer back, along with the glides, and then again, both the upper support frame and the lower with the bottom in it. And then, as I showed you before, I've got the block on the bottom for the pull-out caster wheel. Okay, our next step is going to be actually assembling the base of the cabinet. So what I've done is I've taken the tabletop and I've laid it inverted on a flat surface. I have a large back panel, and then I have the two side panels that we had assembled previously. So for the side panels, again, you want to make sure that the drawers extend away from the back. So what I'm going to do, the back panel goes will be a distance from the top edge to the first hole. So I'm going to actually just set this on the tabletop. It's a nice flat surface. I'll take the side panel, line it up next to it, and then we take the 1 3/4 1024 machine screws. They go through the hole in the leg on the side panel. You take one of these little hex nuts, you hold it in the access hole with your finger, and then you just start it with a screwdriver. So I'm going to get that started. So I've gone ahead and I've attached the side panels, both sides, to the back panel with the machine screws. It's setting upside down, so it's in position on the tabletop. This unit also gets a front brace, and what happens is there's a small metal pin, a 3/4 inch long, 3/16 diameter pin, which we place in each end of this brace. What that does is there's a slot in the leg, and that pin prevents this brace from twisting. So the pin holds it, and then we'll fasten it with a bolt. So the way this works, we actually use this brace on another unit that's of a similar size. So there's holes in the edge, so that for the other unit it has doors. So you're going to put those holes towards the bottom of the cabinet. That way the brace will be in the correct position for the two pullouts, the upper drawer and the lower pullout. And again, that gets fastened with 1 3/4 inch machine screw and a nut, one on each side. But before I do that, what I want to show you is on the inside of the cabinet how we fasten the tabletop. So you'll see 4 pilot holes, which will line up with those metal L brackets. And so what you do is you just line those up so they're in position front and back, and you just slide this a little bit so it's centered. And once your front brace is on, and then you fasten the tabletop with 5/8 number 6 screws, your base will be secure. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've attached the top front brace, as well as fastened the base to the tabletop. As I had mentioned earlier, you look where the pilot holes are in relationship to the L brackets, because those pilot holes are drilled with a computerized router, so they're always in the right spot. And if you make sure that your distances on each side are the same when you fasten those L brackets, it helps keep the base of the unit very square, and it'll help make your drawers slide in and out better. Part of this step is to insert the caster's inserts. So they just go in each leg. I'm just going to press them down with my thumb. If the hole's a little bit large or the insert's a little thin, you just tap that in so the teeth enter the wood. And so I'm going to just put all 4 of these in. We supply a set of wheels, 2 lock, 2 don't. I always put the locking ones in the front, so you just put them in and you just push them down. If they go in hard, you would tap on the metal part. Do the other side, completes this step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upright the unit, and then we'll install the lower pullout in the upper drawer. Okay, so we're at the one of the final steps. So we're going to insert the lower pullout. So before we do it, I want to make sure we put this caster in place. So there'll be an insert that'll go into that hole, and then I'll put the caster in. So that's ready. And what I typically do is I extend these glides out. I'll rotate this a little bit. This is actually much easier if you have another set of hands. And so I'm going to try to do it myself, but it is easier if 2 people work together. So what you want to do is you hold it in position, line up. I'm going to start with the top one here. You just get that started, and actually you can push it in, you'll hear it click. Oops. There it went. I'm going to reach down here. Do the same thing with the bottom. You kind of line it up, pull it out, click. Slide this one around. Keep this out. Going to reach inside the cabinet. There we go. So that's coming out. Clicks in place. Same on the bottom. All right. So now, because we're using full extension ball bearing glides, the ball bearings have to be centered in the glide because we took it apart. They're not lined up. So what you have to do, you actually have to push it in and it's going to stop. A lot of people think, oh, I've done something wrong. You haven't. You have to actually force this in to center the ball bearings, and once you do that, it's going to run smooth as glass. So I'm going to just push it in. It takes 2 or 3 shots. So I got it in, and then after that, it just runs really smoothly. Our next step is to install the upper drawer. Again, I'll turn this a little bit sideways. So all you do here is you put it in position, you tip it down a little bit so those wheels go up and over the ones inside the cabinet. Tip it up a little, and then it should drop into place, just like that. And lastly, we provide wooden discs to cover the bolt holes. So these are 5/8 wooden discs. A little trick that I do, I take a piece of plastic from the packaging. You want to line up the grain of the wood, push it in with your finger. If you use the plastic before you tap on it, you won't mar that with a hammer. So I'm going to go ahead and install the other 7. It takes 8 altogether. Tap them in and this unit will be complete. So I thank you for your patience.